Greetings and happy Halloween, everyone! This is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 6 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled, Great Lakes Freakout. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. It's Halloween, and Lincoln and some of his sisters team up with the Casagrandes so they can win a storefront decorating contest, but things get out of control when Carl uses Lucy's spellbook to summon zombies. So everyone goes about rounding them up, and when the page to reverse the spell gets eaten, they use Rosa's horchata to eliminate them, but this leaves the mercado a complete mess just as Ernesto Estrella, the judge for the contest, shows up. The episode ends with the Casagrandes winning the contest, despite how wrecked the store is, and they go on to appear in a television commercial as their prize, while Carl can still be seen holding onto Lucy's spellbook. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. Considering this is the first episode to feature the Casagrande family following the final episode of the spin-off about a month prior to the release of this Halloween special, I was really looking forward to this one, and for the most part, I didn't think it was all too bad. Although there are some things that definitely don't sit right with me. But before I talk about the negatives, let's first talk about the positives. First off, it was great getting another crossover between the Louds and Casagrandes since they always have great chemistry together. What's also noteworthy is this is the third major holiday where both families interact with each other, the other times being Thanksgiving and Christmas, no matter how phoned in that last one was. We also got some unique crossover character pairings, such as Lisa and Carlos sharing an interest in Halloween knowledge, and some small interactions between Lenny and Carlota when it came to designing everyone's matching zombie costumes, which did look nice. My next positive may seem like a strange one, but I liked how the entire story came off as more of a Casagrande style episode than a regular Loud House episode. You see, whenever the Loud House does a crossover with the Casagrandes, usually it's the Louds that takes center stage while the other family is more of a supporting cast. The same is true when the Casagrandes did a crossover with the Louds in the episode Cursed. This time the roles in this Loud House episode were reversed since the spin-off characters had more involvement to the plot and collectively had more dialogue than that of the main Loud House characters. These two families may coexist in the same universe, but there is a distinct difference when you watch Loud House and Casagrande episodes, and Great Lakes Freakout was definitely leaning more towards the latter. Seeing how this episode was written by Kevin Sullivan and Alex Schwimmer, with the latter having been a writer for the Casagrandes, it only further supports what I'm saying. We also got a reference to the episode Haunted House Call, where Lucy not only mentioned how she once summoned a prank-loving ghost named Buzz, but much to her dissatisfaction ends up summoning him again in this episode in order to help make the mercado very scary for the contest. Somehow she didn't seem to be that annoyed considering she was still smiling when Buzz agreed to help. However, he ends up ditching everyone to go help another store owner, and we never see him again for the rest of the episode. We never find out if he's still lingering around Great Lake City or if Lucy was able to send him back to the afterlife, but hey, who has time to worry about ghosts when you have zombies on the loose? Speaking of which, and I don't know if anyone else agrees or disagrees when I say this, but I'm actually okay with the show using zombies. Because one, it's a fictional cartoon, and two, they already allowed ghosts into the series, so I'm not too surprised zombies can exist too. Technically speaking, both entities are considered deceased, so that's a nice little double whammy for you. Normally, I would have taken some serious issue with a non-spiritual character like Carl being able to summon the undead like it's no big deal as opposed to the very spiritual Lucy, but if it's anything like Lynn and her friends reading one of Lucy's spells that sends them levitating in the air despite neither one of them ever dabbling in the dark arts, I guess what Carl did in this episode with Lucy's book shouldn't surprise me by this point either. But anyway, getting back to the zombies, my favorite part of the episode was during the final showdown inside the mercado. Everyone was able to eliminate the zombies by blasting them with horchata, something Rosa wanted everyone to taste test several times throughout the episode. It was a recurring gag that played an important part to the story, and the way everyone went about destroying the zombies was very similar to what happened in the episode One Flew Over the Loud House, coincidentally another episode that dealt with zombies to a degree. Instead of the kids filling water guns with chicken soup and using that to subdue their zombie-like family, everyone in this episode filled water guns with horchata, and that took care of their more life-threatening problem. Seeing how Alex Schwimmer was the writer for One Flew and co-writer for Great Lakes Freakout, it's safe to assume the concept of using water guns to take down zombies was more than just a coincidence, so I will give credit to Mr. Schwimmer for writing some minor, yet interesting consistency savvy when it comes to dealing with anything related to zombies or zombie-like behavior. Now, as far as the good things of this episode go, there are some things I personally do not like, so now we come to the negatives. Just like what happened in Tricked back in Season 2, one of my biggest pet peeves is how very little involvement Lucy had to the plot. Lincoln said she knows how to make Halloween very scary, and that was proven in both Halloween specials, and yet both episodes didn't focus on her as much as they should have. While yes, she does help to make the mercado spooky and go so far as to summon a real ghost in order to up the Casagrandes' chances of winning the contest, she never really does anything significant after that. She came off as more of a plot device than an actual protagonist, and that's really disappointing if you're a big fan of hers. Halloween is basically Lucy's version of Christmas, and once again she got the very short end of the stick. Lana also had a small role in the episode, but it came off as kinda pointless in the long run. She was only brought along just so she could keep the rowdy neighborhood cats under control, got them to sing as if they were a spooky choir, and that's pretty much it. She's never seen trick-or-treating with the other kids, which I found very strange considering how much she wanted to get candy in the previous Halloween special, and she's not present during the final battle with the zombies. Not even the cats played a role in taking down the zombies either. I get the storyline reason as to why Lana decided not to go trick-or-treating, and I understand the writers wanted to make use of the neighborhood cats who always had a recurring presence in both shows, but this episode could have written both Lana and the cats out of the story and nothing would have changed in the slightest. If anything, the role should have been switched to have Lucy be the one to stay behind at the mercado and Lana be the one to go trick-or-treating, since those were the respectively similar roles they had in the previous Halloween special from Season 2. But hey, you know, whatever it takes to make sure Carl can summon zombies without Lucy finding out until it's too late. But anyway, compared to Lana, Lenny and Lucy at least served a bigger purpose to the story, and even Lisa played a role in bringing the zombies to the mercado. Even though you could make the argument that Lisa only showed up at Great Lakes because her sisters paid her $50 to get out of the house, and how Carlos could have done the same thing by himself. Similar to Lana, I found it kind of odd how Lisa was also not as interested in trick-or-treating this time compared to the last time she was embracing the Halloween spirit. This time she was all about the history behind the holiday instead of only wanting to get candy. I mean, she didn't even get dressed up to go trick-or-treating with the other kids, so I guess you can interpret that strange shift in her character however you want. My next negative, even though it's more of a nitpick, would be Lori wanting to wear traditional matching scarecrow outfits with Bobby, something her parents wore on their first Halloween together. While I'm willing to buy into the whole lovey-dovey thing these two said about Halloween being such a romantic time of year, I have difficulty buying into the matching scarecrow outfits Lori wanted her and Bobby to wear. It seems so out of place for Lori wanting to be a scarecrow because her last Halloween costume was a vampire. Coincidentally, Bobby also dressed up as a vampire in the Casagrande episode New Haunts, and he wears a strikingly similar costume in this episode as well. If Lori wanted them to both dress up as vampires, that would have made more sense because it would stay consistent with previous Halloween-related episodes, and their costumes would match perfectly as boyfriend and girlfriend. Still, Lori didn't make a big deal when she showed up as a scarecrow and assumed Bobby, still dressed as a vampire, had Lucy raise the dead and summon a zombie attack just so he could save her in what she believed was some kind of romantic gesture. Obviously, that was not the plan, but hey, Bobby just decided to roll with it, and boy did he dodge a bullet there. Perhaps the biggest negative of the episode was when Ernesto Estrella showed up at the mercado when it came time for judging the contest. Initially, he was going to give the victory to Mr. Hong, coincidentally the same guy Buzz said he was going to be working for during the first act. The mercado was in complete shambles following the zombie fight, and even though Ernesto was impressed with Rosa's horchata, it still wasn't enough for him to give her family the victory. The Casagrandes didn't deserve to win given the condition of the store, and yet Ernesto gave them the victory anyway because he got freaked out when he looked at Boris. Like, seriously, out of every possible scary thing there is, this strange anomaly of a 9-year-old is the thing that frightens him the most? I get the joke, but still, him? Then again, what was Boris's purpose for tagging along with Lucy besides being a plot device to be used right at the very end of the story? All we know is he said he was very excited about celebrating Halloween in the big city, but seriously, what else beyond that? It's really sad when you begin to realize his character was only written into the story just for the sole purpose of being the one to ensure an undeserved victory for the Casagrandes. Their store got wrecked and should have been knocked out of the running for the contest, but this creepy kid from Royal Woods was enough to make up for the damages and give them the chance to appear in a television commercial? Unfreaking real. Now there's one last thing to look out for in the first act. First, Lori can be seen driving to the city with Lucy and Boris. Then she arrives at the mercado and Carlota have said she needed help making costumes. Bobby asked Lori if she could run back the Royal Woods to get Lenny, which she does, and yet Lenny was already animated into the background when Lori pulled up with Lucy and Boris. How did the animators not realize this as they were putting the episode together? Plus, this episode takes place in October when it's only daylight for 12 hours, and Lori makes multiple trips between Royal Woods and Great Lake City, and it's at least 3 hours both ways. It should have already been dark, or at least sunset by the time Lenny arrived, and yet it looked like the sun was only just beginning to set after Lana showed up. Hell, it still looked like the sun was setting by the time Lori came back to the mercado dressed as a scarecrow and when Ernesto dropped by to do the judging. I understand it's cartoon time logic, but I've said it many times throughout this video, and I'll say it again here. Consistency, people. Consistency! Overall, despite all my nitpicks and negatives, I can't say this is a bad episode. By Loud House and Casagrandes standards, this was still a pretty good Halloween crossover. Not quite on the same level as Tricked or even The Loudest Thanksgiving, but it's certainly more entertaining than Curse of the Candy Goblin, and it didn't come off as boring, average, or mediocre. I liked how the spin-off characters had more of a leading role compared to the main characters of the main series. The zombie showdown was just as good as the zombie-style fight from One Flew Over the Loud House, and seeing members of the Loud family besides Lincoln and Lori interacting with the Casagrandes was nice to see. Lucy should have had a more leading role, Lana and Lisa should have had more of a purpose for coming to the city, and declaring the Casagrandes as the winners of the decorating contest was very undeserved given the circumstances. The only other thing I can say is even though this is an official Loud House episode, this felt like something straight out of the Casagrandes, and despite the critiques I've made about the spinoff during the latter half of its run, I would say this crossover special would have made for a much better series finale than what we were given with Movers and Fakers. With that said, I give Great Lakes Freakout an 8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Great Lakes Freakout. I will end this review with a question for the audience. Several members from both the Loud family and Casagrande family are absent from the episode. Some of them are mentioned but never seen. Here's my question. Do you think the episode would have been better, worse, or about the same if everyone from both families appeared on screen together? Reply to the pinned comment down below, and let's see if you think whether or not having more characters would have been an overkill. But in the meantime, as far as the rest of the episode goes, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Happy Halloween! Yes, anyway, peace out, home slices.